Today I'm going to read you the story Little Red Riding Hood, illustrated by Rosie Butcher. I'm going to read you the story first before you do the augmented reality part of this. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Little Red Riding Hood who lived at the edge of a big, dark forest. Little Red Riding Hood had a grandmother who lived on her own in a cottage on the other side of the forest. One morning, Little Red Riding Hood set off to visit her grandmother for lunch, as she did every week. Little Red Riding Hood skipped along the path through the forest, but soon she became tired and stopped to rest under a tree. And when you see this picture, you'll be able to use your Hippo Magic app and see something really cool happen there. As she closed her eyes, Little Red Riding Hood heard a voice behind her. "Hello, little girl. Are you lost?" "I'm not lost. I'm going to visit my grandmother, who lives in a cottage on the other side of the forest," Little Red Riding Hood replied. What Little Red Riding Hood didn't know was that she was talking to a big, bad wolf. There's another picture you can scan, and something will happen on this page. The big bad wolf wanted to gobble up Little Red Riding Hood right then, but he decided he would race ahead to her grandmother's cottage so he could gobble them both up for lunch. The wolf ran ahead until he reached Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother's cottage. He knocked on the door and listened. "Who's there?" called a voice from inside. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf. The wolf opened the door, and before Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother could even scream, he gobbled her right up. Quickly, the wolf put on her nightcap and glasses and tucked himself in bed. Tucked himself up in bed. When Little Red Riding Hood reached her grandmother's cottage, she knocked on the door and called out, "Grandmother, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood." "Come in," said a voice from inside the cottage. So Little Red Riding Hood opened the door and went inside. Little Red Riding Hood thought that her grandmother looked a little strange, so she switched on the lamp near the bed. Here's your Hippo Magic. "Grandmother, what big eyes you have!" exclaimed Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to see you with, my dear," replied the wolf. Little Riding Hood crept a little closer. "Grandmother, what big ears you have!" gasped Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to hear you with, my dear," replied the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood crept right up to the bed. "Grandmother, what big teeth you have!" cried Little Red Riding Hood as the light glinted off the wolf's teeth. "All the better to eat you with, my dear," shouted the wolf, leaping out of bed. There's another Hippo Magic. Little Red Riding Hood screamed and swung her basket as hard as she could at the big bad wolf. The basket was very heavy, and it knocked the wolf right over. Just then, the door to the cottage swung open, and Little Red Riding Hood's father arrived, on his way home from wood chopping. Little Red Riding Hood told her father all about the big bad wolf and how he had eaten her grandmother and tried to eat her too. Little Red Riding Hood's father grabbed the wolf, squeezed his tummy, and out popped Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother. Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother was very happy to be back, and she agreed to come for dinner at Little Red Riding Hood's house. Little Red Riding Hood, her grandmother, and her father walked out of the cottage and pulled the door closed behind them. Don't forget, there's another one of those Hippo Magic pictures. So now that you've read the story, you can open up the Hippo Magic app and you can begin scanning the cover of your book. And each picture in this book that has the Hippo Magic picture. Have a great time and enjoy the story, Little Red Riding Hood in augmented reality using the Magic Hippo app.